demographic scores to imported outlets. So if we take a quick look at the kind of output that Coca-Cola produced using this system, this is a very simple initial map that simply displays Coca-Cola's distribution depots around the country, colour-coded, as I say, according to whether they're mobile or fixed locations. Also within the system, as I mentioned, here we see a UK map shading according to the demographic suitability at S2 town level. This is simply a UK map of their existing stockists. And here's the same UK map, but this time showing the locations of all of the prospect outlets across the UK. Now, where things really start to get interesting is where you start to combine all those different elements of data together on a single map. So here we can see a 10-mile catchment drawn around the Manchester distribution depot. The shading in the background shows you the demographic suitability of the areas surrounding that depot. So Coca-Cola can start to identify which areas within that 10-mile radius of that distribution depot are particularly well suited to vitamin water as a product. If they then take this one step further and they display the existing stockists and prospect outlets on the same map, they can then see how many outlets are located in those most suitable areas. Coca-Cola can then drill right down to look at these hotspot areas in more detail. So, for example, here we see the street level locations of prospect outlets in the most suitable areas, and this is information that Coca-Cola can pass directly onto their sales force who are out there on the streets visiting outlets, and they can prioritise those outlets that are exactly right and in exactly the right places. Now, as well as outputting maps from the system, Coca-Cola also use it to extract a number of reports, an example of which is shown here. This is a profile report, in this case showing consumer demographic variables, age and social status. But they can provide this, they can create this profile report based on any selected area or catchment area, drive time, distance radius, etc. And they can choose exactly which data variables they want included in that report. So this time we're looking at an example of a workplace profile report. So the types of variables that we can see here are things like the size of business defined by the number of employees, and also a breakdown by industry sector. Now, this profile report shows how bespoke reports can be set up to incorporate data that is specific to the end client. So here we've got a breakdown of outlets according to whether they are existing Coca-Cola customers or prospects, whether they're multiples or independents, and also what type of business they are according to the 16 Coca-Cola outlet environment definitions that we saw earlier. The other type of report that Coca-Cola output from the system are ranking reports. So what we see here are postal sectors within 10 miles of the Manchester depot ranked according to their demographic suitability. Now, we've only shown the very top of this report, so all you can see here are the top 20 sectors, but it gives you an idea of what that report looks like. And finally, Coca-Cola can select data according to certain criteria and extract that from the system. So what we have here is an example whereby Coca-Cola have extracted a list of prospect outlets located within 10 miles of the Manchester depot. And as you can see, along with just the names, or hopefully you can see it's a little small, but hopefully they can extract from the system the names and addresses, names and postcodes of those outlets, but also information on the demographic suitability of the area that they're placed within and the distance to the nearest depot, which is information that Coca-Cola, which is really important to them.
So, I think you can kind of see that, when you've got that kind of level of detail that you can bring, you know, with the kind of brand launch that I was talking about at the beginning, where you need to be really selective about getting the combination of, you know, people and outlets and locations right, that, you know, a tool like Segments really does kind of bring that home for us. And the enabling factor in here as well was just the kind of ease of use, the fact that we were in control of it. So these guys were providing that for our teams to be able to do that analysis and to use it. So no matter what was kind of coming up, what was feeding back from the field was able to be acted upon really, really quickly by using this tool. So, you know, you can see the kinds of things here that it's possible to do. But I would say, you know, that kind of enabling the Coke organisation to be able to use that themselves is probably one of the big wins for us. And, you know, there's a kind of quote there from Stuart, one of my colleagues, and you can clearly read that for yourself. But what he's really saying is, you know, that ease of use point is really, really important in manifesting itself in fantastic execution for us. Because in the end, that's what that's about for us, is are we able to execute our brand plan in the right outlets to the right people? And this tool undoubtedly kind of delivered that for us. And I guess, you know, in the end, I'm in the business of selling drinks. So, you know, what does it actually look like? You know, we're getting some fantastic results over the last couple of years since we've been using this approach. So we're in a really great position now to kind of build on the success we've had so far, starting from a small base, growing it very selectively in a very targeted fashion to kind of push on in the way that we see the success of the future of glass vitamin water.
So what we've shown you today is one way in which spatial analysis software can be used by businesses, and in this case it was all about identifying and evaluating prospect customers or outlets and areas, but there are many other applications for this type of software. So for example, it can help you to understand the characteristics and locations of your business's customers, or it can be used to create store catchment areas, sales territories, etc. It can provide insights into the demographics of the areas in which your company operates. Or it can be used to analyse the locations of your competitors. Now I just want to talk a little bit about where Segments and tools like Segments sort of fit into the wider sort of GIS or Geographical Information System industry. Now where we've come from, you know, in the past, the problem has largely been that spatial analysis technology has always been viewed as a specialist niche area of expertise, and the only people who were able to effectively use it were IT specialists and analysts who had a background in GIS specifically. And at the moment our feeling is that this problem is perhaps being exacerbated by the types of vendors who continue to focus on the very experienced users and on adding increasingly advanced and complex functionality. But we recognise that there are a number of users out there for whom spatial analysis technology remains an unexplored, untapped area of opportunity. So this is leading to a number of specialists like Serendipity 2 creating tools which cater better for that market. So tools like Segments that are fast, they're simple, they're intuitive, they're ready to use, they're fully supported, and they're cost effective. Our belief at Serendipity 2 is that given the right tool and training, any marketer can use spatial analysis software to answer real-world business problems, regardless of their level of software expertise.